welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candace Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. And today we're going to be taking a look at this up and coming new moon in the sign of Leo. I'm excited to be back. We're going to be diving into this fiery, radiant new moon in Leo, which will be hitting us on July 24th, 2025 at 2 degrees of Leo. Now, this lunation is all about stepping into your personal power, igniting your creativity, and embracing some serious transformative vibes. We've got a lot to unpack in this video today, including the astrological aspects. I'll give you guys some deep predictions on how this is impacting all of us, as well as the 12 rising signs, and you'll get personalized insights in how to navigate this particular new moon. So stick with me till the end if you want to see that. And if you guys like my content, if you're excited to see this video, smash that like button, give me a thumbs up, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Drop a comment below with your rising sign and let me know what you're looking to set intention-wise and what you're overcoming, because that's going to be a big theme. And obviously that community share is so important when we're looking at oppositions to Pluto and Aquarius. So make sure you guys leave a comment below and we'll get glowing with this new moon. So we have a new moon happen every month. This is the moment where the sun and the moon come into conjunction in one particular sign. And this is going to be taking place on July 24th, 2025. It'll be happening, I'm Central Time, so around 2:11 p.m. Central. So that's going to be closer to 12:11 p.m. on the Pacific Coast and 3:11 on the Eastern Coast. Got my time zones confused, but adjust your time zones accordingly depending on where you are, and pay special attention if you have any personal planetary placements. I would say 1 to about 3 degrees of Leo. So if you have a sun, moon rising there, obviously you have a new moon that's going to be conjunct this particular degree. Now, Leo is the sign of the lion, right? It's the 5th sign of the zodiac, ruled by the sun, and it is bold, it's heart-centered, and it's all about shining. So this is a very potent time, this particular new moon, for setting intentions revolving around self-expression and personal power. Now, 2 degrees, if we think about this in a sense of degree theory, is got another layer to it. This is actually a Taurus degree. So it has a connection to themes like stability, value, as well as grounding. But it could also be revolving around the markets, banking, resources, and financial themes. So having a new moon at 2 degrees of Leo in a Taurus degree is like the universe saying, let's build something solid, but let's add a little bit of sparkle to it. Let's make it more creative. Let's make it more fun. And I think that this is a new moon that is perfect for setting intentions that kind of blend creativity with longevity. So think about launching a passion project or stepping into a role that's going to be lasting for quite a while. These are the intentions that we want to set under this new moon. Now, we also take a look at the Sabian symbol. So the Sabian symbol is going to give us a little bit more context in terms of what this particular lunation is going to be about and what we're going to be kind of building towards over the next 6 months before this becomes a full moon in Leo. And for this, we're going to round up. So we're going to be reading 3 degrees of Leo, and that's a woman having her hair bobbed. And the keyword is decision. So the theme is courage to change. The symbol speaks to the fact that when individuals are free to make choices, change and free themselves from bondage to outworn habits and unprofitable ways of living. The image of a woman having her hair bobbed or cut short symbolizes independent thinking, modernization, and a desire to fit into the immediate social milieu and be a part of what currently is in. The emphasis on self-examination and avoidance of crystallization and a willingness to examine the self and take whatever steps are necessary to facilitate personal growth. The transformation implied in this image is sudden rather than gradual, and the implication here is of a sudden realization that change is necessary. At its highest, the symbol represents the capacity to pull the self together and do whatever is necessary to move forward and accomplish a task and achieve a goal. Watch for self-depreciation and feelings of inadequacy, or a complete lack of insight and inability to recognize self-worth or potential. The accent is on self-examination. The desire to belong or be a part of some significant activity could create a willingness on your part to make personal sacrifice in order to achieve this goal. Change is indicated. Your greatest advantage lies in breaking free from self-limiting thoughts and behaviors. Have the courage to do what needs to be done. Guard against feeling sorry for yourself or resenting those who are doing what you would like to do. Don't blame others for your own failings or unwillingness to risk. Stepping stones are independence, freedom, self-expression, courage, change, modification, alternation, conversation, conversion, transformation, extremism, and a desire to fit in. The irony that is happening in the midst of a Mercury retrograde in Leo, where a lot of people are going to be reevaluating and reassessing, what's going to make them happy, what they want to be working on, what they believe in, what they love, right, Leo? And we look at a Sabian symbol that's about making a dramatic change or cut, to our hair, our appearance. But we know the Sabian symbols can be more kind of talking about this in a sense of what can be manifesting for the collective. It doesn't mean everybody's going to have a dramatic haircut, but it can mean that this is all about a bold reinvention that we're kind of going through. And this is about like doing it with confidence and suggesting that we're going to be adapting to the now while owning our own kind of unique essence or style. So this new moon really is about getting a cosmic green light from the universe to refresh how you show up, both inside and out. So if we dig a little bit deeper to what this new moon means symbolically, we know that new moons are kind of tied to a blank state in the lunar cycle. So when the sun and the moon align, it's inviting us to plant seeds for the next 28 days, but more importantly, really for the next 6 months, because in 6 months' time, as we get into the beginning of 2026, we'll have a full moon in Leo, and that's going to show us kind of the manifestations of this particular period. Symbolically, it's about setting intentions and inner reflection and kind of dreaming up what's next. So we have to look at that under the context of Leo, and Leo is ruled by the sun. So we've got the sun in its home sign, it's in its domicile. We know that this is kind of like the zodiac superstar. This is a sign that governs creativity as well as leadership, romance, and obviously the heart. So it's about living more authentically and radiating joy and kind of owning our own, particular spotlight. So the new moon in Leo is your chance really to lead with love, with authenticity, maybe to create something extraordinary and kind of like let your inner fire roar. But hold on, because this lunation has got some major cosmic heat. So this is where the aspects are really going to show us what kind of, a path we're going to be going forward when it comes to some of this stuff for the better part of like the next 6 months. Now, you guys have heard me say not all new and full moons are created equal. To be honest with you, I've been looking at this new moon for quite a while, probably since last year, and I definitely had it on my list for most intense new moons in 2025. So it is a regular lunation. It's not an eclipse. We're not quite getting into eclipse vibes yet, at least not until next month, but there's a lot of stuff going on with this new moon that gives it a little bit more extra oomph than I think some of the other lunations that we're going to see this year. Those aspects are going to tell us whether or not this is going to be a clear and easy path, basically, to change and manifestation, or if it's going to be potentially kind of riddled with some challenges. And this new moon is an absolute powerhouse, okay? It's connecting with every single outer planet. Sextile to Uranus and Gemini, trying to Neptune in Aries, trying to Saturn in Aries, opposition to Pluto in Aquarius. This is huge. When we see aspects to the outer planets, big things happen. And these particular planets really represent generational shifts. So this lunation is kind of tying your personal goals to what's changing and what's being reworked collectively. Plus, there's a bit of like a do or die intensity to this particular new moon. Not to sound dramatic, but that's something we can't ignore. In particular, I'm talking about the direct opposition to Pluto in Aquarius. So that's basically the headliner here, right? Faintly giving me kind of like flashbacks of, what we have experienced over this last year. Last summer, we had a Mercury retrograde that went through Leo. We happen to have another one during this new moon. We think about the very beginning of 2025 when Mars retrograde in Leo was in opposition to Pluto in Aquarius. We also saw it again that was happening in April of 2025 when Mars was then direct, getting ready to kind of come back into Leo. And this new moon is in the exact same aspect, that same opposition, 180 degrees to Pluto in Aquarius. So some of you guys are going to feel like this intensity is coming back up. Maybe you're feeling like you're having deja vu for some things you've been kind of working through, and it's still kind of in its process while Mercury is retrograde at the time of this new moon. But the Pluto opposition, by almost an exact degree or less than a degree, is definitely the headliner. So Pluto is the planet of death. This is a planet that deals with rebirth. Obviously, it's an Aquarius and it's retrograde. So what it's doing right now is it's transforming society. It's transforming tech, group dynamics. And the opposition to the new moon in Leo is kind of creating this push and pull between me, Leo, and we, or us, the collective, right? Aquarius. We've seen in previous cycles when there's been oppositions between Pluto when planets are in Leo, that this creates major power struggles, right? And it shows us where there's definitely a lot of drama revolving around leadership. There's a lot of drama revolving around military leaders. There's a lot of drama around Hollywood, right? Stars, celebrities is very much kind of Leo. Star culture is Leo, and I have theorized for some time that Pluto in Aquarius is like the star killer, that it's kind of killing off this idea or this concept that we have to worship certain, celebrities, and it's going to be also showing us kind of the shadow side of fame, power, right? And the impact that has, that opposition to, Leo figures. So this could be youth, this could be children, this could be anything revolving around personal joy. And definitely we'll be expecting some power struggles and a need to release during this new moon what is holding us back. So this is echoing the most recent Mars retrograde, which opposed Pluto with these degrees. So for some of us, we might feel like old tensions are resurfacing for one final purge. I think the significance here is that tied to that period where we saw Mars retrograde from, December all the way up until the spring of 2025, with those same oppositions is bringing up some of the same things that have been kind of going on culturally or globally. So unresolved issues from that time, control or power dynamics, or maybe suppressed authenticity is going to be kind of coming up. These things might be resurfacing, pushing us to really kind of confront and finally transform them. Also, resistance can lead to crisis. So if we're resisting something, especially with 180 degrees, two planets that are in fixed signs, neither planet is really wanting to give. Truth be told, even though the sun is in its domicile, it's pretty strong. The opposition to Pluto generally wins. So Pluto also happens to be sitting at 2 degrees. So that's also echoing some of the changes that are potentially going to be happening, or the repositioning or redirecting of the markets, right? Pluto in Aquarius is representing technology, innovations, changes going on with AI, surveillance, anything that's also kind of going on with the future of the internet, and money, and how that's going to be impacting how stocks are trading, how people are investing, what kind of money we can be making. And, in my opinion, because Leo is all about risk, I think with that new moon and the Mercury retrograde, it's pretty fair to say we're probably going to be seeing some changes going on with the markets and people kind of repositioning themselves right around this new moon as well. And a lot of it's going to be because of change of what's kind of coming up about the future of bonds, banking, anything in regards to like Taurus related things, because it's at a 2. Anyway, I feel like it's about not resisting. We may surrender to necessary changes. And I think that this is supposed to be actually about a period of empowerment. But Leo is very much the actor or the person on stage or the celebrity, the person who's in the spotlight, versus Aquarius, which is going to represent, the audience and kind of like what everybody is watching. So I think that a lot of entertainers, a lot of creators, a lot of people who are also involved in speculative markets, even leaders are going to be under a lot of pressure because of that opposition with Pluto and Aquarius, where people are going to be very critical of just moves that they're making, decisions they're making, and some of the drama that can obviously kind of come up from that opposition. The positive is definitely the trines and the sextiles, because these are going to be much friendlier kind of energies that we're going to be seeing in the skies. We do see that at the time of the new moon, there is a trine to Saturn retrograde in Aries and a trine also to Neptune retrograde in Aries. So friendlier, obviously, with the trine. This is like a more Jupiterian aspect. So it's going to represent growth and life and development and opportunity for potential, even in the midst of what might feel like a little bit of crisis. That trine is supportive. So it's blending Saturn's discipline and structure with Neptune's idealism and spirituality, obviously in the sign of Aries. So this is a fire trine, and fire trines are very creative, they're expressive, they're daring. And I really think that this is a new moon where Saturn and Neptune are helping build new foundations through assertive action. As long as we're applying creativity, as long as we're applying compassion, as well as like our vision. So together they can harmonize at this new moon, grounding its bold intentions in practicality and also higher purpose. So when we think about what we want to create, what we want to design, the relationships that we want to participate in, the things that bring us joy, the more clarity and commitment we have to the things that we love, the art that we make, the ways that we express ourselves, the easier it's going to be to kind of rethink this area and set intentions. However, I think that, Saturn is retrograde, so a lot of people are reevaluating and reassessing their goals, they're reevaluating their jobs, what they are capable of changing, whether or not they believe in themselves, and if they have the courage to actually be brave enough to create some new life, or, to be rethinking maybe a creative hobby or a side hustle or even a romantic relationship. Certainly Leo deals with like romance. So in some ways, this will give some of us like a green light for starting projects. I just want to remind everybody that Mercury is retrograde, Saturn is retrograde. This is a time to be going back and reassessing and reorganizing, or kind of brainstorming, but not necessarily launching things. We want to wait until at least the Mercury retrograde is over later in August. And I think it's an opportunity to take concrete steps towards dreams that feel both achievable, but also kind of like align with our soul, especially in areas that require leadership or innovation, right? Aries, Saturn. Now, we also see a sextile to Uranus and Gemini. So this is just a recent development. The very kind of first week of July, Uranus entered into Gemini, and the sextile is also a friendly aspect. Granted, unlike the trine, which comes pretty easily, or the opposition, which is just like glaringly obvious in terms of conflict, the sextile you have to work a little bit harder to achieve. So you have to set the intentions and be willing to kind of keep an open mind or pivot or change in the Gemini area of your chart. And Uranus and Gemini, this is a placement that's going to give opportunities for sudden insights. This is about innovation in terms of how we're thinking and breakthroughs in communication, apps, even media. So the Uranus sextile maybe disrupts outdated mental patterns and encourages adaptability and like fresh perspectives that align with the new moon's creative energy. So I would be expecting unexpected ideas, opportunities to, kind of express yourself in new novel ways. This aspect is also really favoring experimentation. So whether it's with new technology, unconventional conversations, rethinking how you connect with others, Uranus and Gemini could mean new social media platforms. It could be new apps. It could be new technology. It could be a new website, a new blog, reinventing something about the way that you're connecting and communicating, and that's actually inspiring you to find ways to be more artistic, more creative, and that will kind of come through the new moon. There are other aspects now that we have Uranus in Gemini. It is in a slight trine to Pluto in Aquarius, and that's going to be more perfecting kind of in 2026. But this is also a smooth flow between two air signs, and this is fueling collective breakthroughs, especially when it comes to community and kind of connections, especially online. We've got Mars that has been in conjunction to the South Node. You'll actually see that a couple days prior to the new moon that's going to be in Leo. Doesn't really have anything to do with anything. Mars is obviously the ruler, the dispositor of Saturn and Neptune. And I'm predicting, because I'm putting this out very, very early in July, that the Mars South Node is either going to materialize as major changes revolving around health and services. Obviously, South Node Mars could mean we're cutting off certain services or certain things that are being removed. There's lack of funding or lack of support for health or community services. It could materialize also as cutting or breaking away from the past, particularly old jobs, old habits, old ways of doing things, being very critical of ourselves. It could also materialize as like layoffs and mass numbers of people actually being released and let go. Obviously, touch wood, but that's possible, especially as Mars is going through eclipse territory. And we will also see like a reevaluation of, Mars themes. So like anger, hostility, frustration, rage, and the impact that has on us. And if we're getting too kind of wrapped up in war, conflict, terror, people who are frustrated or hypercritical of each other, where that actually has like a negative impact on our own relationship to ourselves and our own vision. And we also kind of get off track. So it's not really making too many direct connections to the new moon, but it's something that's worth kind of like mentioning. I think that Mars meeting with the South Node is really just urging us to kind of release old patterns and work around, being too much of like a perfectionist. Now, we do see that Venus in Gemini is in a square to Mars within about 1 degree, and that does bring up tension between love and action. Watch for friction in relationships or projects. Venus in Gemini is very much about pretty words, communication, connection, more of a social butterfly energy, and it's like it likes the idea of being a little bit more free and ability to kind of move around and connect. Or have options, versus Mars, which is going to be in Virgo. It's going to be much more about scheduling and timing and planning. It goes without being said that obviously when we have a Mercury retrograde, right, we have communication issues. And sometimes we miss messages or texts. Sometimes we're not communicating well with other people. Sometimes there's a need to kind of go back to the past and rehash things. Mercury's retrograde in Leo is in the same sign as the new moon. So it is baked into the fact that we're setting new intentions in regards to matters of the heart, and we're going to be rethinking how we express ourselves. Very important, because Mercury is directly tied to the South Node Mars, where maybe we're not being so critical of ourselves. We just want to express ourselves or create for the sake of creating. Equally, Mercury is directly tied to Venus in Gemini, so it's going to also be kind of, helping us rework or rethink our bios and social media, our LinkedIn profiles. It's also helping us rethink how we can get creative or rework a website or incorporate new technology into online, kind of spaces. And it's connected to Uranus and Gemini. So this new moon is giving us an opportunity to start new while Mercury is retrograde. It's getting us to think about, well, do I love this? Do I not? Do I want to reconnect with that old ex? Am I still in love with that person? Do I need to get back to this hobby? And ultimately, I have found that all of the retrogrades in Leo have really been about getting to the heart of the matter. What do we truly desire? What do we love? And how can we express ourselves in a more authentic way? Obviously, easier said than done, right? When you have this new moon that's in opposition to Pluto in Aquarius, where the crowd, right, the internet, our social connections, our friends, our communities can be very critical, can be very resistant, can be very mean, or can be very hostile, or kind of show you the darker side of where you may not always feel like you have the support when it comes to the things that you want to do, the things you want to create, your relationships, your hobbies, even your children. So that is kind of the challenge. Like there's an opportunity to work with lemonade, I think, with a lot of the sextiles and the trines, but still we're realizing that, individually there is something that's really rising up that's like roaring under this Leo energy. That's like, this is what I have to create. This is how I express myself. This is how I feel. This isn't what's working. And coming up with creative solutions to be able to overcome some of the trauma or some of the drama that's happening with that Pluto opposition. So it's transformative, it's brimming with potential, and obviously it's really a time to rise up, but only after facing the shadows of Pluto and Aquarius. Now, with all new moons, we really want to focus on both the elements. So in this case, it is in a fire sign, so it is connected to fire. We also want to focus on some of the intentions surrounding this particular new moon. If you're going to ritualize or do anything for the new moon, first thing that I would say is work with fire, obviously in a safe way, whether it's, you have a bonfire outside, or you decide to light a candle, or maybe you're going to do a fire meditation ritual, whatever. I would say this is a good new moon to work with candles. So, obviously the colors of Leo are associated with gold, orange, maybe even yellow candles. If you want to use the smaller ones, like the tea lights, you want to use the 7-day candles, whatever you work, just be careful. And make sure you light them while setting intentions to amplify some of these kind of energies. If you like to work with herbs, right, whether you like to create like an herbal bath, maybe some of you guys like to use some of these herbs in your cooking or in your teas, maybe you like to dress a candle with it. I would recommend using cinnamon, and this is primarily for passion and success. You can use bay laurel, which is tied to the sun, and this is a herb that's used for protection as well as used for victory. You can use St. John's wort because this is good for healing, and you can use rosemary because this is good for clarity and strength. So these are the herbs that I would recommend to kind of use. Whether you use them, in a herbal pouch, or maybe you even use essential oils, you can kind of use some of those. For oils specifically, like oil burners or incense, or even if you want to put some on like a candle or in a bath, I like frankincense for this one because I feel like it's got a strong tie to solar power, and it's very much about focus and protection. I also like orange because orange can be good for warmth and creativity. And for those of you guys who are working through some like heart healing stuff, rose can be really helpful for this as well. Now for crystals, for those of you guys who are rock hounds, I recommend using sunstone because this is a stone that is connected to obviously Leo. It boosts joy and vitality. That's why I like it. I also really like citrine because citrine attracts abundance and it's very much used for confidence. Tiger's eye obviously is strongly tied to Leo, and this is really about grounding your courage, and it's good for protection. And I also like ruby. I think ruby could be a good stone that we could use for this new moon because this is going to ignite passion. So depending on how you guys like to ritualize the new moon, usually, within a day of the new moon is a good time to set those intentions. You'll see over the next 28 days, some of those things start to manifest. But keep in mind that we're really waiting until we get to the full moon in 6 months' time. That's going to show us really how everything is kind of coming together. Obviously, set up your space, whatever feels like right to you. If you want to work with candles, herbs, crystals, maybe you want to put a little bit of like oil on, a particular point in your body, or you want to write your intentions out, speak them aloud, burn them, whatever works for you. Choose your own adventure. But I was looking at the full moon that's going to be in Leo. And what's interesting is by the time we get into the beginning of next year, we are going to have a new cycle of eclipses that are coming through in February and March 2026. Actually, we will see the very beginning of the North Node eclipses that are going to be picking up in Aquarius in February of next year. So this will not be an eclipse, but it's going to be within the signs where we are going to start seeing eclipses next year. So it may pack a little bit more of a punch, just in my mind. And I look at the full moon that's going to be happening in Leo. Okay, so this is when the moon opposes the sun, and this will be around February 1st, 2026. As many of you guys know, not only are we coming into eclipse season, but now we are actually going to see the Saturn-Neptune conjunction starting to build. Now we're going to see planets that are going to be going through Aquarius, where we will actually see an eclipse in February of next year. And the sun obviously is in its opposite sign, so it's a bit debilitated here, but look at this massive stellium of planets that are going to be in Aquarius. Pluto, Mars, Sun, Venus, and Mercury is, there as well. So this is going to be a time where whatever steps individuals are taking right now under this new moon in the summer of 2025 in Leo is going to have massive effects for the collective next year. The things that people create, the visions that they have, the stuff that they're working towards, what really their heart is telling them they need to share with the collective is going to have a huge effect on movements in 2026. And also Aquarius is politics. It deals with the internet. It deals with technology. It's going to deal with our goals and our communities. Mars, Pluto is definitely some heavy vibes, but I feel like a Venus Cazimi kind of mixed in there can definitely kind of indicate that there is a change going on revolving around our relationships to certain networks. And that we're realizing that we can create things on a personal level that we can actually share and bring to the table to connect and collaborate with other people to be a part of something much bigger. So with that being said, definitely some big energies next year. Take that into consideration when you're setting your intentions. I would like to show you guys now the predictions that I have for the 12 rising signs for this particular new moon. Which will be happening on July 24th, 2025. So special attention to early degrees, Leo, sun, moon, or risings, as this is going to be really impacting you guys. I would just say, listen for your rising sign first, okay? I'm a Western astrologer. I'm going to be showing you guys this from the perspective of whole rising signs. If you use Placidus, you have to find where 2 degrees of Leo is in your chart. And I'm going to be talking about what this new moon means for each and every one of the rising signs. and how it pertains to that particular house and what you guys want to take into consideration. Definitely listen to your sun sign, especially because this is a new moon in a solar sign. A lot of you guys might find that this really resonates with you. And listen to your moon sign too, because it is a lunation. So it will have some kind of direct impact on your emotions, your home, and your private life. So definitely listen to all three so you get a little bit of insight as to how to navigate this particular new moon. All right, so we're going to be starting with my Aries and Aries risings. What's up, Aries? How you guys doing? You're going to be experiencing this new moon in the sign of Leo taking place in your natal 5th house. Now, it's obviously in a fellow sister fire sign, so having this in a fire sign is kind of helpful for you because it's going to be kind of familiar energy, fiery, feisty, and it's making aspects to Saturn and Neptune in your sign. So you play a pretty significant role in the direction of where things are going to be going with this particular new moon, as well as I would say even the Mercury retrograde. But the new moon's going to be in your 5th house, okay? So this is the house that deals with creativity. This deals with romance, everything revolving around self-expression, children, your own personal hobbies, joy, and creativity. So obviously the ruler of the new moon is the sun, and it's in the 5th house. The trines to Saturn and Neptune, I think, is really significant. I feel like the new moon for an Aries rising is really igniting your creative spark and your romantic impulses. And this is urging you to launch bold projects or embrace like a playful sense of self-expression. However, it does have an opposition to Pluto in Aquarius. So this is your 11th house of friends and groups, and there can be some friction kind of going on there. It's possible that your personal passions might clash with social expectations, maybe leading to power struggles or feelings of like isolation within your community. You may also be facing pressure to tone down your individuality for the sake of the group, but I think the trine to Saturn and Neptune, which are in your sign, in your 1st house, offers a lifeline. Basically, it's empowering you to kind of assert your identity with discipline and infuse your actions with a little bit more spiritual depth, helping you, I think, navigate these tensions with confidence and kind of own who you are. I think the key insight that I would give to my Aries and Aries risings is, keep the creative fires burning, right? Keep them blazing because, during some of these group dynamics, it's going to test your ability to keep creating and to being self-expressive and being authentic. Stand firm in your authenticity as well. I think that if you, need to compromise, only do so when it aligns with what you believe you should or should not be doing. You also have lots of opportunities to refigure, or rethink how you can connect and communicate with other people as well. Don't let other people put out your fire. If you want to focus more on, dating, on getting back into the swing of creating or making art, or if there is a need to reassess a romantic relationship or be reassessing anything revolving around children, that can be coming up as well. And something I've thought about a lot, I'm an Aries moon, so a lot of the opposition to Pluto for me has been a lot of like, just because other people are doing something doesn't mean I have to do that, and not wanting to play like keeping up with the Joneses. And I think that might come up a lot for you guys right now and really questioning like what you create, what you do, who you date, whether or not you have kids. Are those things actually truly going to make you happy? And that's something that you're thinking about, I think, throughout the retrograde. Anyway, the card that you get is the Knight of Cups, which is a great card. This is a card that is kind of the knight in shining armor. So those of you guys who are single or if you're wanting to meet people, this can indicate that there is a new potential connection coming. And this is about being idealistic, charming, artistic, graceful, tactful, diplomatic, a mediator, and a negotiator. But this could represent a water sign coming in. So a Cancer, a Scorpio, a Pisces, being a little bit more emotional in your kind of creative process and like really opening up to something new and being more vulnerable. In a relationship sense, because this is the house of romance, it can mean that there is somebody coming in that really opens you up to love and vulnerability, and it could be your knight in shining armor. So keep an open mind with that, especially if you're open to kind of meeting new people or reevaluating a current connection. It can actually be pretty sweet for you. Good luck, Aries. There we go. All right, we got Taurus and Taurus rising. What's going on, Taurus? You're going to be doing this new moon in the sign of Leo. This will be taking place in your natal 4th house of home and family. Anything in regards to property, your roots, your parents, your roommates, the past, and obviously the foundation of your life, right? So Something to think about is, especially if you're an early degree Taurus, sun, moon, or rising, like if you got anything 0 to about maybe 4 degrees, this new moon in opposition to Pluto is directly squaring your sun, moon, or rising. And I think when I think of Taurus, I think of pleasure, money, security, resources, stability, and really having that sense of solid ground beneath your feet. And during this particular new moon, this is a really big topic because it's about setting intentions in regards to your private life, your home life. But that square to you can feel a little intense. All right, so I am predicting for you guys with the new moon being in your 4th house, it is bringing fresh energy to your home life. For some of you guys, this will materialize in the future, could be the next 2 to 4 weeks, could be the next 6 months, as a potential move, okay? It could mean there's a renovation to your home, or maybe there is like a renewed family connection that's taking place. But the opposition to Pluto in your 10th house of career creates a stark divide between domestic comfort and professional ambition. And this is a storyline that you guys are probably pretty familiar with, having had retrogrades here in recent years, having just had a Mars retrograde here. It does talk a lot about what's going on at home and behind the scenes and your sense of security versus this ongoing pressure when it comes to your career, when it comes to your public status, when it comes to your reputation. And even more so, Pluto deals with your relationships. So it can be the pressure from clients, pressure that you're getting from a spouse, something that's going on with a business partnership. And Pluto is retrograde. So it definitely is kind of suggesting that is now being reworked. And you will have a retrograde in the 4th house as well. So that's, they're both kind of getting reworked, both the home side and also the career side. Anyway, I feel like for a lot of you guys, power struggles with bosses or a need to overhaul your public role could disrupt your peace a little bit, and it's forcing you to reassess your priorities. Now, the trine to Saturn and Neptune in your 12th house encourages retreating inward through introspective or spiritual practices. So think meditation, time alone in nature. And this will help you find clarity and emotional grounding amidst some of the storm. And I would say that for you guys, your foundation is shifting, okay? And work may feel like a bit of like an intruder. So you're gonna wanna embrace transformation in your career and making those necessary changes in order to restore harmony and peace at home. For a lot of you guys also, because Mercury is kind of involved in this and Mercury deals with children, it also has a really strong tie to money. There is a sense of reevaluating, what you can afford at home, if kids are moving back, if you're needing to expand your home for creative or family reasons, and like where you're having to kind of say, you know what, I need to kind of be really focused with what's going on at home and maybe take the necessary steps back or changes career-wise and also with relationships to make sure that everybody is peaceful and happy. Now, if you're looking to move, you want to find a new home, you want to sell your house, you want to renovate your place, right? All of these things can kind of happen after the new moon that you're going to have in your 4th house. All right, so let's see what the cards have to say for my Taurus and my Taurus risings. Card that I get is the 8 of Swords. And I can't say I'm surprised by this card because I feel like the opposition to Pluto is kind of you going like, I'm stuck, any which way I look at it. I'm either unhappy here or unhappy there. Like there is no like appeasing everybody. And this is a card that's about feeling trapped or restricted or victimized, paralyzed, helpless, powerless, like imprisoned. And in particular, this can kind of talking about just feeling like restricted. But whenever this card comes up for me, when I'm talking to clients, I'm like, you can take the blindfold off. You can see that your hands are not tied. You feel like you're a victim of circumstance and you realize that you've created this situation where you're like, I can't get out of it. I'm stuck here. But that you have the capability of being able to create change. This is a minor card. What is it that's been going on either emotionally, internally, or with your home or family private life that you have not been addressing? Like there's something coming up that you're not addressing. And it almost seems like you need to address it in order to really finally figure out how to kind of clear all of that out. So that way you can have more clarity about what's going on with the future of your career, your responsibility, or even your relationship. So you need to be dealing with what's going on at home. You can make a change, even though you feel maybe like disempowered or that you have a lot of pressure at work that's limiting your ability to make changes. really lean on the seventh house ruler and look for a therapist, a support from a partner, maybe, you know, a business partnership, something that's going to actually kind of help set you free. And I think for a lot of Taurus and Taurus risings, you're actually going to see that with Pluto retrograde and now Uranus in your second house, where you're thinking of alternate ways of being able to make money so that way you can actually make the changes you want to make at home, right? So good luck, Taurus. Definitely let me know what happens with this transit. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. You guys are going to do the new moon in Leo in your natal third house of communication, learning, the mind, vehicles, siblings, contracts, all that stuff. So probably feels like a hot zone for you, Gemini, because this is also the area where your chart ruler, Mercury, is retrograding. So your mind is already on reworking websites or going back to something you've learned or changing your vehicle or maybe, you know, trying to renegotiate something. And now the new moon comes in, giving you the opportunity to kind of say, okay, now I can kind of set these new intentions. I think that, you know, this to me looks like it's about new ideas, and this is about new conversations or learning ventures that can take center stage. But the opposition to Pluto in your ninth house of beliefs and higher education is stirring up some kind of conflict. So you might butt heads with a mentor. Maybe you're kind of questioning like long-held, you know, kind of beliefs. Maybe you feel stifled by, you know, rigid kind of ideologies. This tension could really spark a breakthrough if you lean into it. And it's like a conversation you have that shifts your belief or your philosophy, a book you read, a podcast you listen to. And I feel like the trine to Saturn and Neptune, which are in Aries in your 11th house, also sextile Uranus as this new moon sextiles Uranus in your sign, is really saying that there can be support that can come from other allies, from groups and networks that really share your evolving vision with Uranus on your ascendant. Friends and groups that encourage your intellectual growth without judgment. So there can be a lot of you reevaluating, you know, who do I connect to? You know, what do I learn? Who do I call? Who do I kind of connect with in my local community? And I think that the new moon here, your mind might feel a little restless, especially with Mercury retrograde at the same time. And it might be kind of, you know, be about authority figures that are challenging your voice. And I would say seek out communities that value your curiosity to fuel your mental transformation that's kind of going on. Now, other things that can happen with like a new moon in the third house, you're looking at a new vehicle, right? Mercury's retrograde. You don't want to do that right now. Maybe you're thinking about trading one. Maybe you're thinking about planning a trip. Mercury's retrograde. So you still want to be kind of reevaluating where you're going, what you have to say. Definitely a good time to initiate conversations, but really stay with them until about mid-August, until that Mercury retrograde is over. But launching new podcasts, websites, anything revolving around media, you know, these can be things that you're kind of setting your mind to as well during this particular new moon. All right, so let's take a look. Let's see what the cards say for you. We've got the Eight of Cups. Interesting that this is a card that is about like walking away. So this is like the second eight we've gotten now. So it's a lot of change, very Pluto energy. This card is about abandonment, walking away from something, letting go, searching for truth, leaving something behind. Okay, so something that maybe you once believed in, something that you have studied, something that you have shared or that you have talked about. Maybe the opposition of Pluto is going like, actually, maybe that's not really what's going on. Maybe that's not what I believe in. Maybe that's not healthy for me. Obviously, Pluto deals with health, productivity, you know, your schedule, your routine. And it can mean that you're walking away from plans that you had. Maybe you were planning on moving. Maybe you were planning on taking a trip. Maybe you were planning on signing a contract and you're like, no, actually, this is not the way forward. And a lot of it's because you feel like it's not the right time, or there is something that's kind of coming up that's like conflicting in regards to schedule. So you might have to tell somebody, you know what, sorry, it's not happening, it's not working. And that's part of like the new moon that's going to be kind of coming up for you. But I think Uranus on your ascendant, you know, you have the ability to kind of be a little bit more flexible or a little bit more spontaneous right now. And I also think with some of the aspects to Saturn and Neptune, you know, the right friends are going to understand if you are, you know, not committing to something, or if you can't commit, or if you don't share the same perspective or belief system. Like, you can't agree to disagree. And the right people will support you and will also kind of like respect the fact that you have a different kind of frame of mind, right? So hopefully that's helpful for you, Gemini. Let me know what happens with this new moon. All right, we've got Cancer and Cancer rising. What's up, Cancer? You've got a new moon in Leo in your natal second house. And this is obviously the house that deals with finances, resources, spending power, self-esteem, self-worth. And this is your money house. So this is the new moon where you set intentions revolving around, okay, I want to get a bigger salary. I want to have more spending power. I want to have healthier self-esteem. I want to charge more, that kind of stuff. And it's an interesting part of the skies because not only does this new moon impact you because it's, your planetary ruler, the sun and the moon coming together saying, hey, it's time to kind of get the show on the road with this, but Mercury is retrograde there at the same time. So for a lot of Cancer and Cancer risings, this new moon really what it's doing is it's boosting your confidence in money matters and self-esteem. It's giving you an opportunity to hit reset. And what it's doing is it's inviting you to set ambitious financial goals. However, there is a bit of like a caveat here, and that's the opposition to Pluto. And that really means that Pluto in your 8th house is bringing up shared resources, and it's really signaling with its retrograde, there's some intense shifts that are going on. So think like power struggles over joint finances, dealing with debt, right? Emotional investments, karmic entanglement, budgets and other things going on, with the company or the business that you're working for. And it's really saying to you, I think through the Mercury retrograde, there is a need to release control of hidden fears revolving around money as well as dependency. We can't have a lack mindset going on with this particular new moon because it will kind of get you. You have to be careful with Pluto. He's a trickster. There can be a tendency of Pluto saying, hey, what are you afraid of? And he will hand that to you on a silver platter, okay? Trust me, I know. I've got Pluto conjunct my sun, so I feel like I'm well-versed in the Pluto trappings. When I look at the opposition, I think for a lot of you guys that it's really about confronting hidden fears about finances and joint resources. And the lifeline is actually the trine that you're going to see to Saturn and Neptune in Aries. Now, I know it's in another cardinal sign for some of you early Cancer risings. It's squaring you. But in this case, it's actually helping you. And in your 10th house, it's aligning your career path with a new set of values that come in through the new moon. And this is offering you practical yet inspired ways to rebuild your sense of security. Because after all, the second house sun is going to say, you know what, I'm only worth as much as I believe that I'm worth. So when you renew that sense of, hey, I know I'm worth this, the universe will reflect that. That will reflect in how your bosses are treating you, the jobs you're going after, the salary you're getting, the career changes you're making with Saturn and Neptune in your 10th house. I do think that, money and worth are very much intertwined. So don't let other people shake you. Don't let other people make you doubt yourself. Focus on what you can build independently to reclaim your personal power, okay? All right, let's take a look. Let's see what these cards say for you. Card that I get is Judgment. I kind of see this as like it's now or never. Like, okay, I have to do it, right? Now I have to do it. I have to come to terms with if I ever want to feel financially in control or, kind of stable or satisfied, I have to kind of deal with the monster in the closet, Pluto in the 8th. I have to finally look at my checking account. I have to finally look at my debt, or I have to deal with the taxes that have been due, or I have to finally confront my partner about their spending. This is about like self-evaluation. This is a card that's also about awakening, reckoning, renewal, purpose, reflection. And I think in a financial sense, this is about financial gain. This can actually mean that, now it's time for you to actually receive something, but only after you're confronting and dealing with what has not been working. So now is the time, I think, to do that. And for a lot of you guys with Mercury retrograde, it's like you're finally having to kind of come to terms with it anyway. You're finally dealing with things that you have been afraid to kind of talk about and now getting your financial ducks in a row. Good luck, Cancer. Let me know what happens. All right, we've got Leo and Leo rising. What's up, Leo? This is your new moon, new you, new moon in the first house. The sun is your chart ruler, so it does very well here. And when you have a new moon, especially if it's going to be anywhere, if you have Leo placements like 0 to 4 degrees, it's going to be a little bit more prominent for you guys. And especially if it's a new moon birthday, that's like a fresh start, clean slate for the next year. So everything's going to be brand new. But the new moon is really, in the first house, it's putting a cosmic spotlight on you. And this is perfect for personal reinvention, from your style to your goals. I think about Mercury retrograde in your sign. I think a lot of you guys are either changing something about your self-esteem, your budgeting, maybe your personal style, and you're in the midst of that. So the new moon is setting in motion, okay, I'm going to make these personal changes. My goals are in, a new alignment, the way that I want to look, the way that I'm spending money, the way that I carry myself. However, there is this opposition to Pluto. And the opposition to Pluto is in your opposite sign of Aquarius. Pluto deals with home, family, the past, as well as, some domestic issues or issues with like roommates, family members, stuff like that. And the opposition in the 7th house is pretty common for confronting people. So it's almost like there is this new beginning that's coming up for you and you're reinventing yourself. And it's about how other people react or respond to how you're now carrying yourself, how you're now kind of valuing yourself, how you're now communicating and kind of connecting. So this is going to be a bit of a curveball because relationships can become battlegrounds for power struggles. It can mirror the need for deep transformation, and a partner's intensity or your own need for independence might dominate the narrative within this new moon. It's like, who am I and what am I doing because you're not working or you're resisting or you're unwilling. I think the lifeline here is the trine to Saturn, and the trine to Saturn and Neptune, which are also in fire signs, means that, your 9th house urges you to expand your perspective. That, if you're having a difficult time maybe going on with a relationship, you travel. If you're having a hard time kind of connecting with somebody, what are you learning from that? How do you connect with a therapist? How do you connect with a mentor? What are you learning about this experience where there is some difficult stuff going on potentially in relationships? And that could be with friends, it could be with family, it could be with spouses. And I really look at this and I'm like, well, it's urging you to expand. And the more that you're having this spiritual exploration and balancing self-focus with broader horizons, the better that you're going to give yourself some space. You're going to give other people some space. Maybe you're going to take time to really evaluate whether or not this is working for you. If you want to live with somebody, if you want to confront somebody, if you want to kind of stay in partnership or relationship with someone. So you're going to want to work with that. You've also got some of the sextiles to Uranus in your 11th house, which means friends, allies, other people are also going to kind of give you some support and definitely be willing to talk to you about what's kind of going on within certain relationship dynamics. I would say because this is your one new moon that you get, right, this year, make it count and make it be about the change you're making for yourself, not you're changing because somebody else is unwilling to. No, make it about you. The retrograde is more about your needs, your values, not so much other people. Look at it as you're rewriting your story and, others are a part of it, but you're the main character. And you want to use relational challenges as fuel to grow wiser and truer to yourself and not make it be about conflict or drama. All right, let's take a look. Let's see what the cards have to say for my Leos and Leo risings. Definitely quite the new moon for you guys. I get the 9 of Wands. This is all about last stand, persistence, grit, resilience, preservation, near success, and fatigue. I could see that. I could see a lot of like, I'm tired, I don't want to keep dealing with this, or I don't want to keep pushing forward, or it's been a lot. And like, I know I've heard it definitely in the comment section for my Leos and Leo risings. I feel for you guys. But I definitely feel like this is a new moon where, especially at a 2, it's like, what's most important to you? What do you need in order to feel safe and secure? Yes, you may be tired of the back and forth with another person, but I kind of feel like, the definition of crazy is having the same conversation over and over and over again and expecting a different outcome, right? And so if you're seeing that there's trauma, drama, back and forth, conflict going on with other people, part of the new moon and the retrograde is about being like, I'm not going to fight back anymore. I'm not going to take it personally. I'm going to focus on my reactions to things and know that you're actually in like the final leg, especially with the 9 of Wands, of like finally overcoming something and being able to kind of complete this. Part of it also might be Mercury. The fact that Mercury is retrograde, a lot of you guys are going to be like, I'm having to let go of certain resources or certain outdated beliefs, or I'm letting go of certain friends even. I mean, it's tied to Uranus. So a lot of you guys might actually have a friendship breakup. It might be less relationship oriented. It might be friend oriented, where you're learning not to let that define or like affect you, right? And it's more about being like, well, I just got to be honest and I got to be authentic. And yes, through being my most authentic self, it is going to maybe, and certain relationships or push certain people away. But that means that you stay the path and you stay honest and, kind of true to yourself. and the right ones will stay, or you will see some kind of evolution in your social circles. So good luck. Don't give up. Keep with it. We've got Virgo and Virgo rising. You guys are going to do the new moon in Leo in your natal 12th house. Obviously, Virgo, this is also, I think, kind of important for you guys as well. You know, your chart ruler Mercury is retrograde in the sign where we're having the new moon. So even though it's in a part of the chart which is a little bit more hidden behind the scenes, the 12th house is subconscious. It's when you're sleeping. It's your bedroom. You know, it's private spaces, healing centers, foreign land, hospitals. It is a time where right before your birthday, planets start going through the 12th house. The sun, you know, Mercury, sometimes Venus, obviously in this case, the moon. And it's giving you this time to take a step back and really reevaluate where have you been over the last year? What's winding down? You know, what are you reviewing in terms of what you've learned? What are you taking with you and what are you leaving behind? So a new moon in the 12th house calls for quiet. It calls for renewal. And this is a time where usually dreams, meditation, or healing old wounds takes precedence. So I think that this is about taking a step back and having the opportunity to have fun, creativity, romance away from it all, right, Leo? Really paying attention to your creative impulses, your romantic desires. However, there are oppositions that are taking place to Pluto in Aquarius, and Pluto is in your 6th house of work and health, and it's revealing hidden stress or power struggles that are going on in your daily life, in your office space, revolving around who you're working with, challenges with habits, maybe even potential changes or challenges to your career. And so this could manifest for some of you guys as a toxic job. It could mean that you've been overworking, right? It can mean that there's been health issues that now are demanding your attention, pushing you to release what's been draining your spirit. I think obviously with your chart ruler retrograde in the 12th house, it's also kind of saying like you need more rest, you need more reflection, relaxation, meditation. Some of you guys are even going to be like, I need a vacation. I need to go on a trip somewhere. I need to be far away, you know, and that could be the solution to some of the things that are kind of coming up with the opposition to Pluto. Pluto does represent communication, does represent the mind, and it can represent a back and forth that you're having with emails, meetings, phone calls, even dealing with neighbors or even siblings can be Pluto. And you got to be careful when your chart ruler is retrograde in the 12th and you've got planets in the 6th and the 12th house, because it can represent that balance of like the mind, body, spirit. Now, I think the solution, one of the ways out of this is going to be the trine to Saturn and Neptune, which it's helping you in a sense, but it's still in like water related houses. And Saturn and Neptune are retrograde and it's in your 8th house. I think this is actually going to deepen the process. Yes, it will support emotional transformation and stronger connection to your inner power, but it means that you need to be real with yourself. You need to be raw and authentic. Some of you guys are going to be going to therapy. Some of you guys are going to be working through childhood issues or emotional or intimacy blockages. And a lot of it can be about accepting and being more open to change. Obviously, there's a lot of retrogrades going on in these houses. So it's kind of like changing circumstances, letting things end so new things can actually begin. And I think a lot of this is so you have a stronger connection to yourself. I feel like with the new moon in the 12th house, the unseen is speaking very loudly with this particular new moon. I would be listening, shed daily burdens that block your peace so that way you can emerge stronger in the end. All right, let's take a look here. Let's see what the cards have to say for my Virgos and my Virgo risings. Oh, I love this card. You get the Magician. I really feel like this is about your reality being created in the ethers, as above, so below. That's very much like the Magician card. And this card is about willpower, desire, resourcefulness, skill, ability, concentration, and manifestation. So it's more about manifesting, well, what kind of a life can I create? You know, how can I create more of a work-life balance? If you're imagining it, you're visualizing it, you're tapping into that in your, you know, meditating, vision boarding, taking time to rest, relax, and dream, this could very much become your reality. So I like the Mercury retrograde in the 12th because it's saying that you're kind of trying to find a way to be able to bring the magic back into your day-to-day life. And a lot of it's going to be about what you're making time for. Easier said than done, right? There's a lot of things changing for my Virgo risings. And I attribute that a lot to Uranus going through your career house, so that's going to be changing your career or your status in some way. Mars hitting the South Node right around the time of this, which means you're having to kind of give something up or let something go. That could be an asset, that could be resources, that could be an old fear or phobia, something. And so I think that this new moon is just kind of like a trust fall with the universe and knowing that certain things are kind of moving so that way you can create more of the life that you do want. Visualize it, pray about it, manifest it, and you'll see it actually come into reality. And it's going to create a very different dynamic, I think, when it comes to not only your work and your lifestyle, but also your health in the future. Good luck, Virgo. We got Libra and Libra rising. What's up, Libra? You're going to be doing this new moon in the sign of Leo in your natal 11th house of friends, of allies, community, your goals. I always say this is like the birthday cake candles that we blow a wish on. So this is really prominent for setting intentions revolving around wishes, okay? Connecting with your friends, some of your goals, anything revolving around your social connections and your community. Now, this particular new moon is great for setting intentions when it comes to group projects and them lighting up your world. But obviously the opposition to Pluto, which you're going to be having in Aquarius in your 5th house, creates a little bit of tension and like a push-pull dynamic when it comes to creativity and romance. Your personal passions or love might clash with collective goals, and this could lead to power struggles or creative blocks within teams. So the Pluto transit is retrograde in your 5th house. It's a lot of like, what do I enjoy doing? What am I creating? Obviously, that's in conflict with this new moon, where if you're somebody who is a part of a community, if you have an audience, if you create something, if you share something with friends, this area of your life is already under construction because Mercury is retrograde there. So you're trying to think about, well, what do I want to share with people? What do I not? How can I reconnect with people? And the new moon is basically saying, okay, we have to focus on more of what's going on with my friends, with my social connections. Yes, there can be a little bit of friction in how I create, but there is a need to go deeper into some of the connections with people socially. Now, you will see that there is going to be a trine that's going to be happening to Saturn and Neptune in your 7th house, and I think that is helpful. And what this really does is it smooths the way for partnerships. So this could be romantic, platonic, this could even be clients, and it's going to be blending practicality with inspiration, helping you find harmony in relationships. So think like 7th house could be your spouse giving you some kind of advice about how to navigate a friendship situation, a business partner talking to you about how you can, kind of create a campaign to promote your products. It could be a therapist who's helping you navigate and deal with, a situation where you've got a back and forth with a friend. So somebody will give you some kind of advice and some kind of direction. I think the key insights for Libra and Libra risings is your dreams really thrive in a community. And you're going to find that, this is important to be there and to be a part of other people. But the opposition to Pluto in your sign is about not losing your spark, not letting go of that thing you love doing, not changing the way that you express yourself, not giving up the, hobby or the time with your kids or, not losing sight of a romantic relationship. And really aligning with partners that are going to honor your individuality. I think that's going to be a huge, huge key for you guys, okay? So let's take a look. Let's see what the cards have to say for my Libras and Libra risings. Card that I get is the Ace of Cups, which is really interesting, especially when I think about Mars being very much connected to relationships. Mars and Venus are squaring, so that can indicate certain relationships are kind of going out and new ones are coming in. This is a card that deals with romance. It can be about new partnerships and relationships, but in particular, love, new feelings, emotional awakenings, creativity, spirituality, intuition. And this can be also about like creative passions, new people that you're connecting and kind of collaborating with. Certainly it can be an omen that there can be new relationships that can come in. Maybe that's the trine of Saturn and Neptune. If you're a single Libra or Libra rising that has been kind of like behind the scenes, not really connecting with people, not really socializing, that reconnection with the new moon in the 11th house could actually bring an introduction or, a new person. But I also think this is about focusing on what you love. And that opposition to Pluto is talking about the unwillingness to kind of change the way that you love or you create. And maybe it's going to be about, you going and finding ways to kind of connect with your collective people and maybe feeling like it's more about those platonic relationships. It's not so much about talking about your hobbies, your projects, your kids, your romance. It's kind of like being more focused on what's going on with others. and maybe protecting some of the things that you feel like are the most sacred for you. Okay. Good luck. I hope you enjoy all the opportunities to get out there and socialize. We've got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. What's up, Scorpio? All right, so you're doing a new moon in Leo in your 10th house of career, reputation, your public identity, your status out in the world. And obviously this is 10 signs away from you, Scorpio. So this is the house of personal karma. So it's not just about how the world sees you or what you do for a living. This is kind of like some major turning point when it comes to your status out in the world, very visible, having planets in the 10th house. Now, something that I think about, obviously, is like a new moon in the 10th house can give you the opportunity to say, okay, I'm ready to get ready to launch my business. I'm ready to take on a new leadership role. I'm ready to get back to work. I'm ready to retire or take on some kind of like personal responsibility, right? And this is an interesting part of the chart because this is where you've had Mars, your ruler, retrograde earlier this year. So this is a part of a storyline for you, Scorpio, where you were kind of thrown back into something. So it's going to depend on your own personal chart, but that Mars retrograde opposed Pluto, your chart ruler, your modern day ruler, in the 4th house. So it's almost like a lot of Scorpio and Scorpio risings have either been reworking their career, going back to an old job, revamping, changing direction, going back to school. And that's created a lot of pressure revolving around what's going on at home and in your kind of private life. So I preface this because this is the same aspect, that opposition to Pluto, your ruler, that you're going to see again, on top of seeing Mercury retrograde in your 10th house of career again, similar to what you had last summer. So I think about a new moon in the 10th house, and this is a new moon that is supercharging your career. That's the positive. So it's making it an ideal time to step into the spotlight or set new, bold professional goals. Keep in mind, Mercury is retrograde, so there's still a lot of like negotiating how these businesses are going to go, what your contract is going to say, how much you're going to get paid. There's a lot of working out the bugs in websites and apps and other things that you might be working on. So now is not the time to necessarily launch something, especially with Mercury retrograde and a hard opposition to one of your chart rulers. However, I think that opposition to Pluto in your 4th house of home and family, it's been stirring up some tension. For a lot of Scorpio and Scorpio risings, domestic responsibilities or past wounds could definitely undermine your public stride. Conflicts revolving around the home life or the family, or going through some difficult kind of home and family situations. Maybe power struggles with family or a need to transform your living situation has been surfacing, and it may likely surface actually during this new moon. Now, the other thing I think about is the sun is going to represent like a boss or a father figure or somebody who is kind of like an authority figure that's challenging your ability to actually make the necessary changes while Pluto goes retrograde in your 4th house. Thankfully, you are going to see this new moon trine Saturn and Neptune in your 6th house in Aries. And this trine is really about supporting discipline routines and wellness practices to help keep you grounded. Eating well, working out, making sure you're being productive, also like maintaining a schedule, right? All of these things are kind of like really important. And I think about your chart ruler, Mars, the secondary ruler, being tied to this particular Mercury retrograde, which is in the same sign. And to me, it looks like for a lot of Scorpio and Scorpio risings, there is like a sense of going, you know what, I'm breaking away from a certain network or a group, or I'm breaking away from a company, or I'm breaking away from a team dynamic, and I'm like doing my own thing. Like it's my time to shine. And that might be part of it, that, there's a little bit of tension there, but your willingness to kind of stay on top of a new schedule or routine can really help you set some of these things in motion when it comes to really upping your career. I want to remind you, Scorpio, that also next year, Jupiter will be coming into your 10th house. So this is important because next summer it's going to be like a big glow up period when it comes to your professional life. I think that I would just focus on ambition being your fuel. I think about this a lot, like Scorpio risings and like their 10th house being Leo, like you guys are very private people. But fortunately, unfortunately, that Leo midheaven, you're going to be seeing one way or another. So this is about home life needing your attention right now, obviously with the opposition. If you resolve any home or family dynamics, then you can thrive at work, you can shine better, you can do it also with a sense of confidence and without guilt. But if some heavy stuff is coming up with your literal home, your parents, your family, your living situation, that can thwart your ability to really thrive. So you have to deal with the private life stuff or the emotional stuff to really be super focused at work. And if you want to interview for new jobs, change jobs, you're planning on, launching something new, that's great. But these are not all things that you're going to do exactly on the new moon. That's going to be something that's going to be coming later down the road, hopefully when Mercury is no longer retrograde in August. All right, so let's see what the cards have to say for Scorpio and Scorpio rising. Thank Goddess, you get 9 of Cups. I would say just off the bat, I would say probably the signs that we're going to have the most difficult time with this new moon was definitely going to be my Aquariuses and my Leos and my Scorpios. That's what I would think. So to see the 9 of Cups coming up for you means in the end, you're going to get what you want, right? So if you're like, I want to be a star, I want to have this really successful business, I want everything to go well, you will get that. This is the You Pass Go Collect $200. Wishes coming true, contentment, satisfaction, success, achievement, recognition, and pleasure. That's great, right? These are great things, especially with your career. Career-wise, it says satisfaction, success, and fulfillment, which I think you will get. But something I find myself saying a lot with just being like a Scorpio sun is I'm like, at what cost? At what cost? And that's something that I would really think about, that career stuff can really thrive right now. Things can actually be doing very well, but at what cost emotionally, or at what cost when it comes to your home or your family dynamics, or things that you're not necessarily as checked in at in a private sense. So you'll get what you want, but there is going to be a need to kind of make some changes or rearrange some things in the private life. Okay? Good luck, Scorpio. Let me know what happens. All right, we've got Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising. You guys are going to be doing the new moon in Leo in your natal 9th house. Obviously in a fellow sister fire sign. So if you're an early degree Sag, sun, moon, or rising, you're actually going to have a grand fire trine from your placements to the new moon to Saturn, Neptune, and Aries. So this could be a very dynamic time for you guys. New moons are obviously about new opportunities, new intentions, and having that new moon in the 9th house is about adventure. This is about traveling. This is about education, your beliefs. This is also going to be about being more optimistic. And a new moon here is really inspiring exploration, right? Sag, this is a house that you're familiar with. You're traditionally associated with the 9th house. So travel, education, new philosophy, all of these things are, kind of beckoning. But the opposition that you're going to be seeing to Pluto in the 3rd house does come with some challenges, especially because this is about communication, and it kind of throws up some roadblocks and some power struggles. Pluto represents blind spots and things you don't see coming, and issues with your subconscious and potentially even fear. So conversations with siblings, neighbors, even how your own words can challenge your growth or your own frame of mind, how you think, right? If you're afraid of something or if you're worried about talking about something. Now, it is possible that misunderstandings might escalate if this is unchecked. Now, something that I would say to lean on is the fact that during this new moon, it's going to trine Saturn and Neptune in your 5th house. And this is basically fueling creative and romantic pursuits and making sure that they're evolving with your worldview. Saturn and Neptune might feel like a bit of a buzzkill in the 5th house when it comes to dating, when it comes to creative projects, when it comes to children. But the trine to the north to the new moon could mean, I'm planning a vacation because I need to have more fun and spontaneity, or I want to learn how to better kind of create art or how to write or play an instrument. So I'm going to go take a course or a lesson. I'm going to learn something. I'm going to find a teacher. And help kind of get you out of that mindset that it's too difficult to create or it's too difficult to have fun or to kind of break away. I also think that, for a lot of you guys, the trines, especially to your sign, I would just keep in mind, this is going to be bringing up, I'm wanting to travel, I'm wanting to go on a trip, right? Especially with like the new moon being in the 9th house, and Mercury is retrograde. So I think a lot of Sag and Sag risings are going to be going, I want to plan a trip. I want to go back to somewhere that I've been before, but, there's some communication issues or there's some scheduling issues or there's some timing issues. It could also mean that you're wanting to go back to school or you're thinking about starting some new level of education. Maybe it means you want to get back into teaching, back into publishing, back into writing. For some of you guys, this could also mean that it's a time where you're initiating something legal, right? But remember, Mercury's retrograde, and Mercury deals with your career and your status. It also deals with relationships. So for those of you guys who are like wanting to plan a campaign for work, or you're wanting to initiate a new business partnership, or if you're wanting to plan travel or even marriage, right? Take your time, because it means that there needs to be some shifts revolving around the frame of mind, or some shifts in how you communicate. And your quest for truth right now is very strong. It's just how you express it, I think, that matters. So choose your words that inspire rather than provoke other people. That's something that I would definitely really focus on during this particular new moon. Be careful with your travel plans. Mercury retrograde. You might be trying to travel, but something's going to change. All right, so let's see what the cards have to say for you. Wheel of Fortune. Well, that's a good card, because that indicates it's like, we're going to do it. It's just going to be a process. This is a travel card. This is a card that's also associated with Sag. Change of cycles, fate, a decisive moment, luck, fortune, and unexpected events. Yeah, I would definitely say that. I also feel like this is about things happening, but good situations happening, good chance opportunities. Wheel of Fortune is kind of like things happen and it's inevitable, and even it's not always a positive card, right? It's positive in a sense where in the end, whatever happened was meant to happen, but sometimes there could be changes or rearrangements or things that are going to get kind of stalled or like reworked or rescheduled. And I could see that actually in the ninth house. For some of you guys, it's like, well, maybe I don't want to finish my degree, or maybe we are moving the wedding date, or maybe we aren't going back to that place. And ultimately, it's going to be for the better. And I would say just kind of trust the process during this new moon, and stay open to any advice maybe that you can get from other people. Good luck. We've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You guys are going to be doing the new moon in Leo, taking place in your natal 8th house. All right, Capricorn, well, here's the deal. You're going to be having this new moon in a part of the sky that obviously in conjuncts or quincunxes you, so you can't see very clearly. And the sun doesn't shine very well in the 8th house anyway. And when planets go through there is always like a change or a transformation that happens. And that's because the 8th house has that natural connection to Scorpio. Other people's money, transformation, psychological themes, shared resources, taxes, inheritances, intimacy, and karmic entanglement with other people. So when you have this new moon here in the 8th house, it's really signaling deep change, emotional, financial, or relational changes. And here's where we set intentions. The challenge here is that both for you and Cancer, this is a very financial type of new moon because it's happening in your money houses. And this new moon is in opposition to Pluto in your 2nd house of personal resources. So really what this means is that, it's going to intensify money matters. It could bring up potential struggles over shared resources or the need to refine or redefine your personal values. Things like debts, investments, or self-worth that's tied to material security may shift dramatically. Now, the positive here is that this new moon will trine Saturn, which is your chart ruler, in the 4th house of home and family. It will also trine Neptune. So if you're a Capricorn, sun, moon, or rising that's going through a negotiation for a settlement, if you're trying to, deal with an estate matter, if you're trying to, negotiate a buying or selling of a home, if you're trying to get mortgage or funding or something like that, likely it's actually really supporting you. Granted, Mercury's still retrograde at the time, so there is like a lot of having to kind of manage a schedule or have somebody kind of help you deal with this. It also may require legal support or, some kind of change or tweaking to traveling or like budgeting. But I think that trine is really positive because in your 4th house, it's going to support emotional healing and nurturing of the home base to help you weather the storm. So I think I've seen a lot of Capricorn and Capricorn risings that it's a lot of like negotiating, what you're getting in a settlement, a divorce settlement, in a legal settlement, in an estate hearing. For some of you guys, it's also manifested as just how much money you're saving by scaling back and, kind of living somewhere that's more cost efficient, moving in with family, right? And this means that, through this retrograde and also the new moon, gives you the opportunity to go, okay, I'm saving money, I'm investing money, I'm paying off debt, I'm able to kind of stash some cash. Therefore, I'm going to feel a lot stronger, especially come 6 months from now when you have that massive, stellium of planets go through your second house. You're going to feel more, I think, secure and confident with your financial situation. So I think that for you guys, the focus here is transformation. Transformation is inevitable. I would embrace it. I would also say release financial fears, maybe to build a truer sense of power. And I think you're doing that through the Mercury retrograde, and especially how it's tied to your daily, health and habits, and also your work. And a lot of you guys are going to find that there's going to be some changes happening at work that's going to kind of bring up some spontaneous changes when it comes to your finances for it, the better. All right, so let's take a look and let's see what these cards have to say for my Capricorn and Capricorn risings for the new moon in Leo. The card that I get is the 5 of Coins, which is never a card you want to see, especially when you get a financial reading, but stay with me here for a second. Retrogrades usually reverse the situation. And so I'm thinking about this from the perspective of Mercury is doing its thing in the midst of the new moon. And it's pretty obvious because the opposition between the new moon and Pluto is going to be at a 2, that there is some physical or financial or money-related conflict that's kind of coming up. And it may come up around the time of the new moon. It might be over the next 6 months. It doesn't have to happen immediately. The moon deals with other people, okay? And the moon will be in a trine to Saturn. So it tells me even if there is some conflict between they owe me this, I owe them that, or this is what I paid for and this is what I didn't get, there is an opportunity for resolution. And a lot of that resolution might come from, okay, you know what, we sell the house, or we divvy up the assets, or, we pay something off and we sell it. And definitely I would say be careful with like that lack mindset. Like when the 5 of Coins comes up, because this is a card that's about hardship or loss or, feeling abandoned, struggling, unemployment, alienation, disgrace, it means that there is an opportunity to kind of avert some of these things from happening as long as your mindset isn't going there. I also feel like this is about coming out of that situation. And I can say pretty confidently, actually, that especially come the beginning of next year, as all those planets during the time of this full moon are going through the second, you're going to be pretty solid. But for some Capricorn and Capricorn risings, this is like you're starting from ground zero. It's like, okay, I've never experienced this much debt before, or I've never, been in this situation where I've been this tight on funds, or that I'm digging into investments or, savings or whatever. And that can be coming up for some people. But I also think that this is about a way to use this as an opportunity to go, okay, I'm going to change and transform. Maybe I am starting from scratch, but I'm not going to be here in 6 months' time. And that might actually come from realizing that, you have everything that you need. And even though you're not feeling like maybe you're getting the support that you need, you are willing to make the necessary sacrifices so that way you can be stronger in about 6 months' time. So watch the lack mindset, guys. That's not something you want to let get to you at the new moon. All right, we've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You're going to be doing the new moon in Leo, in your opposite sign, Leo, in the 7th house of relationships and partnerships. And especially if you're early degree Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, particularly kind of challenging, I would say, for you and Leo and Scorpio, Taurus as well, because it's going to square. But, interesting because it's really dancing with all of your planetary kind of aspects. Not only is it sextiling Uranus, which is your modern day ruler, it's trining Saturn, your traditional ruler, and it's opposing Pluto, which is in your sign. So I think a lot of Aquarius and Aquarius rising, they're definitely going to see a lot of stuff happen from this particular new moon. Now, the 7th house new moon represents a kind of like a reset point when it comes to relationships and partnerships. And the 7th house could be spouses. It could be boyfriends, girlfriends. Leo could be creative collaborators. It could be clients. It could also represent your therapist or your relationship to your children, your relationship to an astrologer. All kinds of people can come through the 7th house. But when you have planets going through the 7th house, when you have a new moon in the 7th house, suddenly the spotlight is on others. And this is where new beginnings and relationships will take root. You have that reset point every summer. However, the opposition to Pluto in your 1st house is really putting your identity under some kind of pressure. And Pluto is retrograde. So you're going through this kind of cosmic pressure cooker where you're reevaluating, you're reassessing who you are, what you're doing, what you want, what personal power you have, what your identity is, what you're doing for work, all that stuff. And very similar to the retrogrades that we've had in recent months, where Mars was retrograde in opposition to Pluto. And for a lot of Aquarius and Aquarius risings, it was like a back and forth with a lover, or a back and forth with one of their kids or with their spouse. And I think that power struggles always come up when we see opposition. So when the opposition's happening in your sign and in the 7th house sign, it means that you will see, power struggles with relationships, be that romantic or business. And it could be forcing you really to reckon with who you are versus who they need you to be, right? And I think that trying to, Saturn helps you because it is basically highlighting your traditional ruler in the 3rd house, where this can sharpen your communication and your connection. Granted, it will be retrograde. So you're going to be learning to listen, you're reassessing, you're waiting to respond. And it's also going to be sextiling Uranus, which is your modern day ruler, in the 5th house of spontaneity, new opportunities, new creative ventures, your children, having options and choices when it comes to dating. So truth be told, like, a lot of people would look at a new moon and they would go, okay, this is an opportunity for you to meet somebody new. Sure. If you're finished with the past, because Mercury is retrograde in the 7th. B, if you're open to change and if you're willing to, open up and maybe be able to kind of receive some constructive criticism, be that from a therapist, a partner, whatever. I also think that this is really about, having the tools to navigate some of these shifts in relationships with like clarity and wisdom. What you'll find with a new moon in the 7th house is that others will reflect your evolution, because the 7th house is like a mirror. And if you're not resisting, then you can see strength in bonds by honoring your authentic self. However, if you are resisting change and vulnerability and being open and maybe letting go of some of that rebelliousness with Pluto in your 1st house, then you're going to see some drama. And some drama is going to be kind of coming up in relationship to other people, especially in the midst of the Mercury retrograde. There could be a sense of going back and forth with somebody from the past. There could be a sense of having more than one option. And definitely seeing that there could be more fireworks in how you're communicating with other people, especially revolving around what you value and financial matters in relationships. All right, so I'm excited to see how this manifests for you guys. Obviously, cookbook astrology will say, manifest new relationships, meet somebody new. And there's something to be said about the 5th house ruler retrograde in your 7th. I mean, this could be a time where, the love of your life could show up, or a major improvement in an existing relationship can happen, but only if you're open to it, only if you're not resisting making these changes. Card that I get is the King of Swords, which is interesting if you're an Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, because this can be about really honoring that element of air, intellect, clear communication, being bold, right? And this is about utilizing reason, authority, discipline, integrity, morality, seriousness, high standards, and strictness. But in relationships, because this is in your 7th house, this new moon, it's about intellect and authority. I keep thinking about like Uranus and Gemini is like, don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me what to think. And Pluto in Aquarius is very much the same way. And I feel like you're changing in such a rapid way that existing relationships might be kind of scrambling, trying to figure out how to keep up with you. And there's a lot of reorienting, yourself in relationships with these retrogrades. But I feel like this is about you being really honest with yourself and with other people, and being very direct about, this is what I want, this is what I believe in, this is where I'm at, and like giving relationships the opportunity to bounce back and say, can we work through this? Can we work as a team? Or, are you going to see more fireworks? So own what it is you have to say. Be willing to listen, especially with Saturn trying this particular new moon retrograde. And clear communication can help you work through any of the miscommunication issues that you're having during that retrograde in your 7th. Good luck. All right, we've got Pisces and Pisces rising. What's up, Pisces? You're doing the new moon in the sign of Leo in your natal 6th house of health, habits, routine, pets, your coworkers, your schedule. And this is in a sign that in conjuncts or quincunxes you, so you don't really see some of the things that are coming. It may feel like busy work, right? It might feel like things you have to kind of get done, creating a to-do list. I think that with the new moon here, it's really refreshing your daily life. So whether that's work and, committing to a work schedule, starting a new job, being more productive, organizing your workspace, health, committing to new health habits, going back to the doctor, sussing out any health issues, or just your habits getting a reset. That's generally what you see from a new moon in your 6th house. The challenge here is that you're going to see an opposition to Pluto. So similar to that of Virgo, there's a lot of like mind, body, spirit balance going on. And I always say the 6th house is like, you know, eating your vegetables, going to the gym, right? Putting your laundry away, like going through all the motions of being organized, healthy, and productive. But you can go through all of the motions physically, but there could be something very much off kilter emotionally or spiritually, or with your sleep, or things that are kind of coming up psychologically or subconsciously. And that's the opposition to Pluto that's in your 12th house. Now, Pluto deals with your faith and your philosophy. So it could literally mean that there is something changing about your faith and the philosophy, and that could be about how you work or even your lifestyle, and that's impacting you some way throughout this particular new moon. Now, the opposition to Pluto in the 12th house, what it does is it's going to stir up your subconscious. It's going to create issues where there is unrest, there is hidden fears, maybe self-sabotage that can be coming up, power struggles that you can't quite name that's disrupting your flow. And I would say, you know, having a Mercury retrograde here at the same time, where it definitely is indicating that, okay, there is some change going on with your work relationships or maybe with regular relationships, or a change going on revolving around family or home life, that can be part of some of the things that are actually changing, which is setting some of these new intentions in order. Something that's working in your favor is that this is also trining Neptune, which is your modern day ruler, in conjunction to Saturn and Aries in your 2nd house. So for a lot of you guys, that trine is really bringing financial discipline, better self-esteem, maybe how spiritual practices are anchoring you to your self-worth, sticking to budgets, you know, cutting certain things out of your diet, making changes when it comes to what you're spending or what you're consuming could actually help you gain clarity about, okay, well, how much do I have to be working? Or, you know, how much can I realistically spend when I'm going grocery shopping? Or how much, you know, should I be spending going to the doctor? Or do I need to be going back and like, you know, to working out, whatever habit changes and what you can afford, I guess, is like the connection there. So I do think that the 2nd house is going to be bringing up financial discipline and spiritual practices to kind of help anchor you. I also think that small changes here will yield big results, right? Big results. So, hey, I'm going to start going to the gym again. I'm going to check in with my doctor. I'm going to go see the dentist. I'm going to focus on, especially Leo, creating time for fun, creating time for creativity, creating time for dating. A lot of it's not just about health and habits. It's like things that are going to actually make you feel like you can do some fun stuff. So small changes will yield big results. However, with that opposition to Pluto, inner shadows can loom. So you want to face them to kind of reclaim your routine's power and like not let subconscious or self-undoing kind of get in the way of your happiness or your productivity, right? All right, so let's take a look here. Obviously, organizing your office, changing offices, changing your schedule, paying special attention to the health of your pets. All of these things are really important during this new moon. And the card that I got is the Devil. And I can't say that I'm surprised because the Devil's actually kind of talking about like habits and things that you're trying to break. So this is about oppression, addiction, obsession, excess, dependency, powerlessness, and limitations, which are themes that we also see connected to Saturn. We also see these themes kind of connected to Pluto. And I could see this for you as like a moment where you're like, okay, I can't give up this habit, or, you know, I can't give up this job, or I can't stop doing this thing or eating this thing or spending money this way. That realization that something feels like it has a power over you is like phase 1. And maybe that's the opposition of Pluto. Phase 2 is, okay, this isn't working. You know, who do I need to check in with or talk to, or what changes do I need to make to like get out of this situation? Where maybe that's the Mercury retrograde. Maybe it's family that's helping you through a situation. Maybe it's going to be a therapist. Maybe it's a spouse. Maybe it means that the situation is actually more tied to, well, I feel stuck, right? I feel stuck in this job, or I feel stuck in this home or this living situation, and like I need out. And the Devil card is about kind of unshackling yourself from something where you felt like you have been stuck for a very long time. So being able to identify what the limiting thing is, or the influencing negative influence is, can help you get out of it. And a lot of it's like mind over matter. I think Pluto in the 12th house is like where we're not, you know, talking about our problems, or there can be things that we kind of keep hidden, or, you know, or sleep issues or psychological issues. really limit us and make us feel powerless. So a lot of it's kind of finding that mind, body, spirit balance, having a spiritual practice or some kind of connection to a higher power, so that way we feel like we can actually take the necessary steps to have a healthier, happier kind of lifestyle in the 6th house. Hopefully that's helpful for you, my Pisces and Pisces risings. Let me know how some of this stuff tracks with you guys. Obviously, this is the up and coming new moon in Leo. I know it's early, but we always look at them a little bit early on the channel. I hope you guys like my content. I hope you find it informative and helpful for navigating some of these energies. If you want to see more about me and my work, click the links below and head over to my website at beyondtheveiledtarot.com. I teach astrology. I also teach tarot. I take personal one-on-one clients. I'm actually booking in September and October right now. I have all kinds of astrology, transit calendars that you can put directly into your phone, and much, much more. So while you're there, sign up for my newsletters. That way you're alerted as to when I have new courses. I'm here every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday trying to make sense of what's going on in the cosmos. I will be back actually tomorrow. We're going to be doing live readings at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. That's 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. Live tarot. Join me if you guys want. And I hope that you enjoy this up and coming new moon. I know it looks a little challenging, but I feel like it's meant to be empowering, especially when we can kind of get on the other side of change and transformation. So don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Sharing is caring. Give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment below. What are you doing in terms of this new moon? What intentions are you setting? Especially those of you guys who maybe have a natal sun Pluto opposition, or maybe if you're going through that opposition, if you're a Leo, would love to hear some feedback from you guys. Until next time, I'll see all of you very soon. Enjoy this up and coming new moon in Leo and enjoy the up and coming astrology. Take care.